Thank you for staying with us. Let me continue my story. In one of my trips abroad, I was giving this kind of talk also. And then a lady came to me and she told me, "Sister, now I know that I am in the state of sin, so I am not going to take communion. But how can you help me? Because I do not want to leave my sin." And so I asked her, "Can you please tell me, if it is possible, what is your sin?" And then she said that, I married very young because I fell in love. After some time, I fall out of love. And then after some time, so I separated from my husband. And after a while, I met another man and I live with him because I fall in love. But after some time, I fell out of love. And so I left him again. And this went on until the fourth time. Now, my husband, my boyfriend, whom I'm living with, is a married man. But that is why I tell you, I cannot leave my sin because I am very happy and secured with him. So how can you help me? So I told her, I will give you 2 assignments. Number 1 is this. It is really now that you have to do it. Will you please ask your mother what happened to you when you were a little child? And then, secondly, I am going to lead you into this kind of prayer that I am teaching people. Now, ask your mother what happened to you when you were a little child. The next morning, she came back and she said, "Sister, something happened to me, not when I was a little child, but even in the womb of my mother. My mother and my father met, and it was like a whirlwind romance. And I was conceived before they were married." And so I asked her, "Is your mother a practicing Catholic?" And she said, "Yes, she was brought up in the convent." And so I told her, if she was brought up in the convent, she knew that the Catholic Church forbids premarital sex. So right at the beginning of your conception, she must be feeling guilty, she must be afraid, and all these negative feelings that she felt were communicated to you, and these negative feelings will make a person insecure. So right at the moment of your conception, you were already very insecure. Then she said, afterwards they got married. So they were already married when I was born. But in between, they were adjusting. And so they were fighting all the time. And so I told her again, angry words are negative energies. You have also taken that negative energy from your mother. And then she said, my mother wanted to divorce, my father wanted to divorce my mother. And so I said, that is also an energy of your mother that was very insecure. What would a woman feel if her husband will divorce her when she is about to give birth? And finally, she said, my mother wanted to abort me. And that is really terrible because it is a rejection of the child. And you must have felt that rejection already. However, she said, my mother was told by her friend that you should not do it, and so she felt very guilty and she has been very, very nice to me since then. And so I explained to her that insecurity creates an emptiness in the heart of every person. It is very empty. And so what happens now? When the child, you became already an adult, you still experience that emptiness. That is why you try to take one man after the other to fill up that emptiness. But you can finish all the men in the world. You will always be insecure because the human heart is made for God, and only God can fill it up. St. Augustine said this, our hearts are made for you, God, and we will always be restless until we rest in you. You can finish all the men in the world, but you'll not be secure because only God can fill us up. After some time, and then I taught her how to pray, contemplative prayer or silent prayer. And I told her, you try to pray this 30 minutes a day. But don't go to communion because you are in the state of sin. However, you can still do good works. For example, you can give alms to the poor. You can still pray the rosary. You can do many of these prayers with the hope that God will give you the grace to leave your sin. Because only grace, the grace of God, can help us to leave our sinfulness. And so I taught her how to pray silent prayer. And she was asking me, sister, how do you pray it? I said, spend some time to be alone. And then I told her that you listen to all the sound. You first make acts of faith, hope, and love. And say, my God, I believe that you are here. I hope in you and I love you. And then you try to pray for yourself that you will be able to leave your sin. And you pray for all those whom you love. Because in prayer, they are present with you. And after that, I will tell you to listen to all the sounds around you. Just listen. And after that, I told her, be aware of your breathing as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And then pray silently in your mind, together with your breathing, the powerful name of Jesus. Jesus as you breathe in and Jesus as you breathe out. Let your thoughts come and go. But of course, during the first time that you will do this, there will be many, many thoughts that comes to your mind. It is all right because you cannot control your imagination as long as you are repeating in your mind the powerful name of Jesus. But there will be times that you remember, for example, something very important. Like, for example, you forgot to cook lunch. And so you'll be already thinking, going to the refrigerator, try to see if there are things. Then that time you are really distracted. What will you do? Bring yourself back to the powerful name of Jesus as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And if you do this every time you are distracted, you are still praying. And after that, she told me she will try to do it. And I said, try to do good things for the purpose that God will give you the grace that you will be able to leave your sin. Because if you are not going to leave your sin, you will go to hell. After many years, some years after, I went back to that place. And I met the girl. And then she said, "Sister, do you know that I have already changed my life?" And then I said, "What did you do?" "I followed your example. I go into that kind of prayer, not only 30 minutes a day, but I do it 1 hour a day. 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. And as I did it, I found out that I can already leave the man with whom I live." And so I told him that, very nicely I told him, then he can leave me already and go back to his wife. And now, sister, I am giving myself to the work of the church, and I am very happy. And she told me she did also some good works in order that God will give him the grace, because we cannot change our lives unless God will help us. That is why we need to pray. And in order that we will change our lives, we also need to do some good things. We also need to discipline ourselves, because without disciplining ourselves, we can never move on. And so she asked me, "What happened, sister?" I said that when you go into this kind of prayer, you go very deeply into your unconscious. And if God touched your unconscious because of your prayer, your insecurity will become healed. And that's the reason why you can already leave this man, because God has made you secure and you already can stand on your own. And she told me, "You are really right, sister. Only God can fill up the emptiness of our hearts." Now, she said, "I dedicate myself to the works of charity and I help the church. And I have never experienced such joy and happiness in my life." You see, there are also things that we need to do. And we call that the active discipline. I'm going to share this with you after the break.